Move on to the next question. This is about within the Central Activity Zone. The Central Activity Zone has been widened from Westminster's traditional Central Activity Zone that's set out in the current Unitary Development Plan. It got widened through the adoption of the London Plan. And this is really a question. Within the core strategy, we'll be taking forward particular areas where we're quite overt about commercial uses being appropriate. These are the core CAS, which more or less follows the existing Central Activity Zone that we have in the Unitary Development Plan, and also a number of streets in Marylebone and Fitzrovia, and they broadly reflect the CAS frontages that are currently designated in the Unitary Development Plan. And this question really relates to all of the new bits of CAS that are outside of those areas that traditionally we've allowed commercial development. So they're areas in Pimlico, Knightsbridge, and Marylebone and Fitzrovia outside of those named streets. And the question we're asking is, should we allow extensions to for office purposes where the site is already in lawful office use and where this does not affect the character and function of the area? And are there any other circumstances where we should allow increasing commercial activity in those areas where historically we haven't?
Yes, I think the simple answer to that is yes. If it's not causing harm, then why not?
Okay.
I think there's a further point on this, which is for some buildings that justifies improvement in quality, and I think that's a point which isn't asked in the question one when you asked about criteria, but the wider point about making sure that the office accommodation really is fulfilling a good and proper function when it's built, which I think we touched on in the design workshop, which is a slightly different idea. And I think the second point is that outside the CAS, modest extensions could be of a size that would mean that you wouldn't have a mixed policy issue anyway. So small increases would work to improve stock without getting you into the complexity of mixed-use policies.
So you're suggesting that outside CAS equally we should allow modest extensions?
Yes, and I say that in the context of knowing at the moment that you, with your current policies, have to take a very strict approach. So, for example, an average two-bed unit is, let's say, 85 square metres. If you had an extension outside CAS of, let's say, 170 square metres, you don't actually have an issue in terms of things like mixed-use policy if you're only talking about one unit. So you can perfectly well allow modest extensions that make buildings more usable that don't then drag you into a very complicated debate about mixed-use policies.
Okay. And how would there be a differentiation between those extensions that you'd allow outside CAS and the ones that you'd allow in these traditionally non-commercial uses that are now inside CAS? Would you have some policy distinction?
Well, I think you'd look at it on the merits of each one. I think that these distinctions are, in the real world, they're not as black and white as that. You look at sites, you look at potential, you look at effects, and you look at, is there really a lost opportunity? And often there's not a lost opportunity, there is a positive gain, and therefore it's worth encouraging it.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, simple point. Could people just identify themselves when they speak? It helps. I'm Liz Frimston from the Victoria Interchange Group. I haven't got a point at the moment.
Thank you. Okay, were there any differing views about those sorts of areas like Pimlico, for example, and about allowing an increase in commercial use? If not, we can move on to the next question. That's great.